It's time for Fort Worth Musical Moments. Join us now as Steve Markward takes a look at the music and the artists who made the city's vibrant musical legacy what it is today. Well, here we are, another Fort Worth Musical Moments, and we hope the wait is worth it today. We apologize for coming on a few minutes late here. Technology, once again, has been our adversary, but once again, we're overcoming it. And Steve, today we have a gem of a guy joining us here, pun intended. One of these guys like yourself, a standard bearer for this new age of Western swing. And unfortunately, we couldn't get him to connect so he can see the video, but he says that's fortunate. We're just going to rock and roll here. We got him here via audio, so we're just going to proceed.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks everybody for sticking in with us. Hopefully, we didn't lose anybody since we didn't come on right at 10. But show business tends to be like that. Whatever, I think Murphy's Law applies, right?
It does here.
Yes. Yeah, we couldn't bring Eric up on the video because of technical difficulties and time restraints, but I think maybe that's good because Eric probably, if he's as tired as I think he is, because he's been on the road hardest working man out there right now, then we probably need to give his mug a break anyway.
So. Yes, Mr. Eric Diamond, how are you?
I'm doing well. I think part of the problem is, we're broadcasting from high atop a mountaintop here in Alaska that I had to scale this morning to be here in time for the show, and the reception just isn't well here at 11,000 feet.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, Eric. You've covered a lot of ground these last few months since you cut your album, which, by the way, congratulations. What a great compilation of music that you've put together. So as busy as you've been, many miles as you've logged, you probably could go to Alaska and back 100 times.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, I know we got a lot going on here as you have rolled out this new album, and you were telling me offline you have been doing a lot of radio interviews, and that kind of goes back to something I know about you, that as long as you've had a career, you have been one of the ultimate grinded out kind of guys in terms of building an organic following and just doing this grassroots effort to make the most of what you have here.
Yeah, I started so young and so many years ago. I kind of did everything the old-fashioned way, and it's been a 42-year adventure. And so, yeah, we just kind of grinded it out the way they used to do it.
And it continues today. If you would, take us back a little bit. Where did I know you have this great fascination with Western culture, cowboy culture. Where does all that come from for you?
Well, I kind of grew up with it. My uncle was the mounted sheriff of Camelback Mountain. He was the horseback sheriff of Camelback Mountain out in Arizona. And I grew up, I was born in northern New Mexico, but we started spending a good portion of our time in Colorado when I was about 12 years old, and then bought land and a home in a little community called Vallecito. And the number one industry there was horses and mules. And they would bring thousands of horses into the valley in the springtime, and seasonal cowboys from Nevada, Montana, Wyoming, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico would all come to break horses. There wasn't a lot of cattle. There was some cattle in the area, but it was primarily horses. And so I kind of grew up in that environment, which I loved. I felt like I was living in a John Wayne movie. And that's where the love of all things Western, all things cowboy began. And I started out doing Western music and traditional country music with some Western swing in there for sure, which was always my favorite. And I've been doing it ever since.
What was it about that music that really stuck with you?
Well, a lot. I love the storytelling part of it, and I loved where we lived. Friday, Saturday night, it was either go dancing or go tip cows, and so that literally from a very young age, my parents were dancers, and Friday, Saturday night, we were down at the Cowboy Bar, which was just about 5 minutes down the road from the house, and dancing and listening to music. And I was on stage at an early age. I started singing very young, and I got my first paycheck to sing when I was 15 years old, and I was hooked ever since because that was a lot better than mowing lawns or stacking hay.
So who were you listening to back in those days?
A lot of Merle Haggard, a lot of Waylon Jennings, of course, Willie Nelson. My mother was a huge Johnny Cash fan. My father was a big Jim Reeves fan. And then when I was about 18, a guy named Jeff Johnson, who was an Oklahoma State fiddle champion and who had been schooled by the famous Terry Morris from Texas, the legendary fiddle player. And Jeff was signed with a major label. I can't remember if it was either Atlantic Records or Arista, but he was the one that turned me on to Bob Wills music when I was about 18 or 19, and I was hooked ever since.
And that music, whether you listening to it at 18 or listening to it today, it's living and breathing, isn't it? It's like every time you listen to it, you find something new in there, some different inspiration out of it.
Absolutely. Well, and one of my favorite bands, probably my favorite band in modern times anyway, is Asleep at the Wheel. I've been following them for 31 years. And, I just love what I love about Western swing is it's jazz oriented, and to me, you cannot listen to Western swing without either having your foot tapping or being on a dance floor. The biggest torture I know is to go to an Asleep at the Wheel concert with no dance floor.
And I know, Steve, you're awful high on the music that Eric does here. He is kind of like you, a crooner and somebody who just has a real good feel for this music.
Yeah, he does. He does. And I was really excited when Eric reached out to me. Gosh, Eric, that's been a while now, that first phone call that you and I had together. And you were looking for a new place to land and do your next recording, and we got you and Kurt hooked up, and the rest, as they say, is history. But yeah, and I was glad to have a fellow Western swing aficionado in our stable under Clarksville Creative Sound, and boy, what an addition it's proven to be. Especially when you collaborate with a guy like Kurt Ryle, who knows how to write and chart those songs, and that's not just anyone can do that.
No, and I really am happy that I am with Clarksville Creative Sound. It's been a beautiful match, and yeah, Kurt has an ear like nobody else I've ever experienced. He knows what needs to be there and where it needs to be. He did a phenomenal job on this album. I couldn't be any happier, that's for sure.
Well, now I heard some stories about those sessions because you were with Kurt. You were there in Clarksville for you stayed there and from beginning to end pretty much. Is that right? I mean,
yeah, that's 100% right. We, to me, it didn't make sense to fly into Nashville and begin the process and then fly back and only be home for, I think, because we had to rearrange dates, I was probably going to be home for less than a week before I had to jump on an airplane and fly back. So I thought, why don't we just come to Nashville or Clarksville and just stay the entire time till we got it done, which was great. And I think it also helped form a bond between Kurt and I, and it was a wonderful experience for me living in his home's like living in a country music museum.
Well, and obviously you guys worked hard and long and kind of ground through the day. I guess it seems to me like you probably didn't even have much time to even eat, because Kurt said late at night you would raid the chocolate the candy bar urn, and, and you would come in and see wrappers all over the place. So you must have, late at night, we laugh about that. Late at night, you must have gotten really hungry, and I'm sure you're burning a lot of calories doing all that work. But anyway, it's kind of a fun. I told Kurt, I said, we're going to have to have
we would. Sorry, we would get up, 7:30, at the breakfast table at 8. We'd have about a 20-minute to 30-minute breakfast, and then literally we would be, especially in the beginning, we would be working from about 8:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night in the first week and a half to 2 weeks. As it progressed, the day would end around 5:30, but that was when Kurt would leave the studio at 9 p.m. and then I would have to work for till almost midnight every night, because I was memorizing songs that I had never heard before. I was memorizing songs that had just been created by the two of us, as well as material that was submitted by another songwriter, Edward Williams. And so I definitely had my work cut out for me. It was, it was pretty much, all day, every day. I'd collapse about midnight or so, and then get up at 7:15 and do it all over again. But it was I learned a lot. It was a wonderful experience. And as you know, that studio and those musicians are second to none.
Yeah, I remember the first time I got to witness that process, and those musicians came in. And the cool thing, we talk about this all the time, the difference between those session musicians and touring or live, musicians like the A-list guys, which are great in their own right. But there's a difference between the two in that the session musicians are more creators. I mean, these guys sit down with a piece of music they've never heard, and then they can come up with the memorable and iconic riffs that make these songs unique. Don't you agree?
Yeah, well, and the thing about session players, I mean, there's wonderful players that tour, obviously, but the difference to me in session players is they know that sometimes less is more, and they have that's why they get hired and get a reputation as session players. They know what needs to be there and what doesn't.
Yep.
Well, Steve, you've got that great earworm, Oklahoma's Calling Me. And one of the songs on Eric's new album is also about Oklahoma, Oklahoma Bound. Eric, tell us about this song. I got it queued up here. I want to play it after you tell us about it.
Well, this was really neat. This was the first song that we wrote, and I bet we wrote it from start to finish in 20 minutes or less. Kurt said, I want to do a song about Oklahoma, and he came up with the title. And literally, I think he wrote the first line, I wrote the second line, he wrote the third line, I wrote the fourth line. That it just progressed like that. We literally just went back and forth, line after line, and in 20 minutes or less, that song was done. And I'm really happy with it. Radio seems to be loving it, and so that was a really special, neat thing. Yeah.
Well, the native of Broken Bow, Oklahoma, Kurt Ryle, ought to get some sort of kickback from the state chamber of commerce or something for as much as he tries to work Oklahoma in there, huh?
Well, after Texas, Oklahoma's, pretty big Western swing. A lot of history there with Bob Wills and Canes and up there. The house that Bob built, and Hank Thompson,
Right.
Vince Gill, Garth Brooks, Reba McEntire, a lot of Western swing. And I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of them, but a lot of Western swing history.
And they've got that beautiful Western Heritage Museum and Hall of Fame up there that we were at a few months ago, watching Michael Martin Murphey and Red Steagall and some of those guys get awards. But that's a beautiful facility and very important for the Western heritage of the Southwest.
Absolutely.
Well, let's share this one here. This is Oklahoma Bound.
I spent a year one night in New York City. I tried to find a girl to dance with me, but I couldn't find a bar with country music. So I headed down to Nashville, Tennessee. I spent a lot of time down on Broadway. The music from those bars was country gold. The girls there were fine, but not the Tulsa kind. Oklahoma's calling me home. I'm Oklahoma bound, where Bob Wills music can be found, where two-step is the thing, they still love their Western swing. I'm Oklahoma bound. The ladies there still love the dancing cowboy. At closing time, they're up for having fun. If you want to stand a chance, you best know how to dance. I'm a rug-cutting son of the gun. I'm Oklahoma bound, where Bob Wills music can be found, where two-step is the thing, they still love their Western swing. I'm Oklahoma bound. I'm Oklahoma bound, where Bob Wills music can be found, where two-step is the thing, they still love their Western swing. I'm Oklahoma bound. I'm Oklahoma bound.
Oklahoma Bound, and that'll get them out on the dance floor.
Yeah, we would hope so.
So I don't know what happened here. I've lost my partner in crime. He's disappeared on me. I guess maybe he found something better to do here. I'm a little worried about the guy. It's been one of those days. Here he is. Here he is.
Sorry.
We
Sorry
can
about that.
we can call off the posse here. We found him.
Sorry. I think we may have a surprise guest about to pop in here in just a second. So I think if unless the technology demons bite us. But anyway, what a great song that is. Who was playing steel guitar on that? Was that Tommy White?
That was Tommy White, absolutely.
Tell you what, it doesn't.
He was incredible.
It doesn't get much better than that, I'll tell you.
And
I've been fortunate, and I've got to work with a lot of the famous steel guitar players like Junior Knight, and Johnny Cox, and Bobby Francis, and Ted Hockenberry, a bunch of good ones. And boy, that Tommy White just blew my mind. He was incredible.
Yeah, he's amazing. He really is.
well, for all your
I'd like to.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify. I want to clarify one thing before we move on. There were no candy wrappers everywhere, but there was plenty of them in the wastebasket.
I had this vision of Kurt walking in the studio in the morning, and you're laying there buried in candy wrappers on the floor, ODing on chocolate.
No, they were all in the wastebasket. I want to clarify that just so people know I'm not a slob.
Well, hopefully you're not diabetic now, too. So.
Well, I was diabetic beforehand.
Oh, are you not? You are diabetic. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
no.
I don't take insulin or anything, but I don't eat much sweet. But
Well,
that was the only option for survival. So
for reference point here, there's the candy urn right there on the corner of the console, the blue and white urn next to Kurt there. And speaking of Kurt Ryle, I see we've got a special guest, not one, but we get a 2-for-1 here. Hang on, what do we got here?
We got to have somebody to make the set look good because we got some ugly ass boys on
Well,
here.
daggum.
So we got Jasmine McDonald here with us.
Hey,
my baby.
Good morning. Good morning to you too, Kurt. Man.
Hey, I saw you guys were talking about that candy dish. You know, Eric just about ate me out of house and home in that candy dish. I don't know if y'all know that, but where's Eric? I don't see the picture.
Well, yeah, but he had technical difficulties here, so we got him here on audio, but not on video. He said he wanted to add to the mystique here, since people don't see him that much on social media. He gets to kind of stay in the shadows here, so that's what we got today.
Well,
unintentionally, but
go ahead, Eric.
I just said that's it was. We got it working last night. Everything was working last night, and today we could either have a video with no audio or we could have audio with no video. We couldn't get them both to work. And I told Brent, I could do sign language for the whole thing, but he thought it was better to do it this way.
Well,
I think it is too. Sorry, my phone just doesn't want to stop ringing today, so I'll have to turn
Well,
this
and we
off.
should say we've got a 3-for-1 here because in the background is Charlie McDonald hanging out.
Yeah,
Hey.
we got Charlie here. They flew in last night. And,
How you doing?
everything went smooth on the flight, I think. So Jasmine and I are here. Actually, I'm supposed to be writing songs with Jasmine, but we've got her in here singing some harmony on some of Kathy Jewell stuff.
Nice.
So she's knocking that out this morning before we get into the other stuff. But I just want to take a minute and talk about Eric's record, guys, if you don't mind. Eric he's probably one of the hardest working singers that I know. The guy he goes out there and works his rear end off, and he gets more gigs than anybody probably on the label. I think he is by far the I don't know that I'd say he's the best singer, but he sure is the hardest working guy. But he's also a really good singer, and he's got a hell of a following. So Eric, we're really happy to have you on here with us, man.
Well, I really appreciate, man. It's good to be part of the team. I'm like the Rudy of Clarksville Creative Sound.
Rudy. Yeah.
I think Eric was nervous when he came in the studio, guys, because he pretty much we go in there and we were working pretty hard, making sure everything always has to come out of here perfect. And Steve, you and Jasmine know this by working with me. I don't let nothing out of here unless it's absolutely spot on. And I think Eric, his way of dealing with stress, instead of taking pills, he would just eat chocolate, And I was amazed at how much chocolate Eric could put down in a day. I was like, you know what? This guy can put it away, but he never gained an ounce, and he would go in there and work it off just as fast as he put it on.
Y'all would get up and have a Mia's famous breakfast at 8:00, and it's 8:01. It's got to be 8:00. You better be there or you miss it.
Right.
And then you work. He pretty much worked you all day. Kurt, you pretty much worked Eric all day, which because y'all had a lot to cover. You were trying to cut a whole new album, and you went from songwriting to charting to recording. And there's phases to the recording process as well. But he was there through the whole thing. I bet you were about ready to start charging him rent, weren't you, Kurt?
Well, Eric was here. He was like 2.5 weeks. He was here at the studio, but he wanted to be a part of the whole thing. And we wrote a lot of these songs that he did, and they turned out really good. But Eric chose some really tough, hard songs to sing too. But I was pretty pleased with how all this stuff turned out. Eric doesn't look like he sings. A lot of times you look at somebody and go, okay, I kind of picture how they're going to sound when they come out. Eric looks totally different from his voice I mean, he's this big cowboy looking guy, but when he sings, he's got a little bit of a jazz and stuff in his voice. I hear a little Louis Satchmo sometimes, and a different artist, which I think is a really cool thing. It sets him apart from everybody else.
I know, Kurt, I was surprised when I heard you sing first time. When I looked at you, I thought, well, that guy must sound like Michael Jackson. But anyway.
Oh, God, here it comes. All that coming.
Well, I tell you what, all that hard work, I'm going to bail you out, Kurt. All that hard work has paid off over the years here. Eric is the 2021 Academy of Western Artists Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year. And more recently here, just a few months back, it was in really good company. The #1 song for They Call Me a Playboy on the Airplay Express. Look at this. He is ahead of John Party. He's ahead of Clay Walker, William Michael Morgan. Man, Charlie Crockett. That's some tall cotton here. And that's high praise.
Yeah, Eric has he's got the voice and he's got that look, And I don't know if you guys know this, but at National Hall one time, Steve was doing a concert with the A-list band, and of course Eric was like sitting out there drooling, wanting to get up there on that stage. Eric, I'm sure you remember coming to me and going, "Can I get up and do a song?" And I said, Eric, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull that off or not, because we had so many people that night. Louise Rowe, Steve, I'm sure you remember, we had Louise there. She was Bob Wills' bass player, and I think the only female member of Bob's band ever. So we had her up there. So we really never got a chance to get Eric up there and sing. I wanted to, but yeah, he was out there in the audience. But I did notice he had every girl in there chasing after him because he was the best dancer on that dance floor. So just throwing that out at Eric. You might like his voice, but I think he might be a better dancer than he is a singer. So I'm just going to say that.
Well, I tell everybody I dance 20 times better than I sing. That's a fact.
Well, you sure dance a lot, dude. I don't think you ever missed a dance, and I never saw the same girl. So, I mean, they were coming out of the woodworks down there.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a song in that, Kurt. Hang on. We're going to write that song.
Okay. That's how they're born right there, buddy.
Between Eric Dunn, Billy Bowles, and Paul Gonzalez, those guys pass the stage more than any. When you're up on stage, you see those guys come back around, and those guys were. And of course, every time Eric came by, I know it was all he could do to not jump up on the stage.
Well, Eric was a big fan of
that A-list band. That A-list band absolutely blew me away. That's an incredible band.
Well,
I look forward to getting to sing with them boys. Whoa,
I know
good.
You've been dying to hijack that band, I know, and we're about to make that happen. We're gonna do some cool stuff. That we got a lot of work ahead for that band for a good number of our artists that because that band is too good to be dormant. That's for sure.
Yeah. One thing I want to say to our listening audience is, if you get an opportunity to see Steve and I working with that band, you won't be disappointed. I promise you that.
Yeah, and some of those musicians are truly the best musicians playing Western swing in the world. There's just none better than that. And man, they're tight. We rehearsed the crap out of them though, and we had a lot of fun. And we got some. Steve just by far has the best Western swing band that I've ever heard, and they love Steve and they love working the music that Steve does and what we crank out in the studio. And so I don't see any chance in that band going anywhere. They're going to be around for a long time.
So, Kurt, of all the songs on Eric's latest album, pretty diverse collection of songs here. Is there any that really stand out that are favorites for you?
Eric brought some stuff to the table, Brent, that I really had not ever heard before. And I don't have the titles in front of me, but there was one that just, every time I hear it, I just go crazy over it. What was that?
I know what song it was. It was Bring Me Sunshine, and I love that song as well.
Yep, that's it. And the minute I heard it, I was like, holy crap, where did this thing come from, man? And where did you get that, Eric? Whose song was that?
So I had never heard the song, but when I was locked down during the COVID, this friend of mine said, "Man, you got to hear this song. This really fits your voice." And I heard the Willie Nelson version of it, which I liked, but it was slower. And then I did a little research. Brenda Lee had a hit with it, and I really liked her version. And then there was a kind of a rockabilly band out of England that had a great version of it. And so we listened to a couple of the different versions, and we picked a tempo that was kind of in between the rockabilly version, slower than that, but faster than Willie's version. And you know, that what's neat about the album is different songs off it are radio. Some radio stations love, you know, San Antonio Rose, and I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And then a different radio station is loving two completely different songs. And the same with People. I've gotten response on so many, you know, everybody has 2 or 3 different ones that they really like, which is good. And, but that song we did, that Bring Me Sunshine, I love that song. I loved it the first time I heard it. And then our version of it, I really liked it. I think our tempo was the best, honestly.
I do too. I think that song, I kept thinking that song surely was recorded by Sinatra or one of those big band guys, but I don't think it was, but boy, it should have been. That thing was just, it sounded like it came right out of that era. And when we started putting fiddle and steel guitar to that thing, it just became Western swing. And yeah, it's just a great song. Eric Brusson, he's got some good songs on that album, I'm telling you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I've been, you know, I love this music for so many years, decades, and been performing for 42 years. That I think I have a good feel, especially because I am a dancer. I kind of, like, I've had people say, "Man, that is the best dance album ever." Well, you know, I kind of pick songs that I'd like to be dancing to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with how that project turned out.
You know, when you talk about Western swing, like we're talking about it right now, you're talking about people, you know, middle-aged people up that grew up listening to this stuff. But, you know, we got a young girl right here, Jasmine McDonald, who has actually dabbled in doing Western swing and has had several Western swing cuts that have done really well. So, you know, I'm so excited to see these kids coming in and picking up, you know, and trying to keep this thing going and keeping it alive too. We're really proud of these kids. And Eric, you play a big role in that because you kind of paved the way for them, you and Steve both. And so it's cool. It's cool that they hear your music and go, "Wow, I really like that. I like what Eric's doing. I want to give that a shot." And they did. And man, it's just amazing to see kids doing that. So
no, and we need that. You know, that's all. You know, Steve's brother Mike has done an incredible documentary on the history of Western swing. Yep. We need to get young people involved, which we are doing. I mean, I've been working off and on for 8 years with the McKettys. I met them when Austin was 9 and
yep.
She was 12, and we've gotten to perform, you know, in multiple states. You know, 6 to 8 events a year. We see each other, and hi, Jasmine, by the way. And, you know, Jasmine and Braden both did a tremendous job with this kind of music. And I'm excited to see this big. I've talked to disc jockeys in the funniest places, Michigan being one of the states and Georgia being another, where disc jockeys have told me that Western swing is on the rise. And, you know, I certainly wouldn't think of Michigan as a Western swing state, but that's good for all of us, and that's good for the cause of Western swing. Absolutely.
Eric, I don't think that's happening by accident. I really believe we as a group have a lot to do with that. I mean, you think about the music we're putting out there, and it's getting a lot of widespread play. You know, my album that came out over a year ago, released last August, gotten a lot of play, and then you follow up with your deal. Jasmine's great stuff. By the way, Jasmine, one of my favorite songs, period, and I mean this, and I can't get it out now. I've got it in my head again. Darn it! It's Autumn Moon, and that was a song I wrote.
I tell her that. I keep telling her how great that song is. She wrote that by herself.
I know it.
This kid can sing and she can write. She's so talented. We need, this is the stuff that makes me happy when I see these kids doing it. I know it's not the genre they're going to choose probably down the road, but it's so cool. You know, George Strait, he just would throw them out there occasionally and keep them alive like Merle Haggard did. And they didn't make a career doing it, but I like it that these kids like it enough that they'll throw one out there on their album.
Well, and one of the things that makes a star is versatility. You know, look at Lady Gaga. You know, she was doing all this funky pop stuff, and all of a sudden she puts on the brakes and starts collaborating with Tony Bennett. You know,
Yeah.
and so you know, so that's real important, Jasmine, for what you're doing. You know, is delve into, you know, go ahead and go down those rabbit trails, right? You know, but not only perform, but you've got a real knack at song. So you're a really gifted songwriter, obviously, and an arranger. I mean, you put those songs together, did some multi-track stuff, brought them in the studio. I'll never forget. I happened to be there that day when you brought those in, and Kurt and I both looked at each other wide-eyed and go, "Wow!" And Kurt, especially because you've known Jasmine since she was a little girl. I
She's
hadn't.
been holding out on me.
Yeah. So
Going back to
ahead.
back to Western Swing, I mean, even Bob Wills said it kind of goes in cycles, and I think it's on the upswing again. You've got people, I mean, Jody Nix, you know, sets the bar for all of us, and you got Jason Roberts, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but, you know, Greg Gibbs, Kelly Spink,
Billy Mata.
Rock King, you know, Chuck Cusabano, and I like I said, I don't want to leave anybody out. I'm sure the Tommy and Jay Cooker. I mean, it don't get no better than that.
And
There's a lot of people keeping this music alive that are incredible, and that I get a lot of my inspiration from. And you know, those guys are all my heroes. You know.
Well, I want to say this about that, Eric. I like all those guys too, especially Billy Mata, one of my favorites. But
Oh yeah, Billy. I'm glad you picked that up. Billy's one of my heroes. Absolutely.
the thing that sets us apart from what everybody else is doing is that we're going out there and we're creating brand new music. We're writing these songs that sound like that era, songs that nobody's ever heard. And I can tell you for a fact, Steve Markward completely sold out of CDs at National Hall. When I mentioned I just walked up to the microphone and I just said, all of the music you're dancing to tonight, everything you're doing, you've never heard before. This is brand new music that all the songs are written by Steve and myself. And those people went nuts when they heard that. They went back there and literally bought every single CD he had and totally he sold out right there. So guys, there's something to be said about doing. You know, I don't want to go out there and keep doing Bob Wills music over and over, although I love it. I want to throw some of those in, but we got to keep writing new music and bring this back.
Well, I think the real where we got kind of justified, and I'm reaching for a different word, that my senior moment's kicking in here. Validated.
Validated. There you go.
Validated. Thank you. Only got so much storage space in this hard drive. Where the ultimate validation was when Kerry Janelle, who's probably the foremost historian of Western Swing, wrote that book about Milton Brown. When he came up to me and he goes, "Steve, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I thought, "Uh-oh, here we go." You know, I figured he was, "Why didn't you play more, you know, Milton Brown or Bob Will?" He goes, "What you're doing is phenomenal. Keep doing it." He goes, "This is exactly what we need." And I thought, "Whoo, okay, good." You know.
Yeah, I think that's the
Absolutely.
You know, it's kind of like you can go out there and you can keep doing Elvis songs over and over if you're an Elvis impersonator, but you guys are not impersonators. You guys are the real deals. You guys are the real artists that can bring this music back. And the only way you're going to bring it back is to bring back new music and not do these same old songs that are the old classic standards. And I think those people that at National Hall that night, I think we proved a point, Steve, because I remember Mike, your brother, even Mike said, "You guys can't go out there and do that. Those people are going to want to dance. They're going to want to hear Faded Love. They're going to want to hear all those great Bob Wills songs." And we went out there, and I think we just absolutely stunned everybody. That dance floor was packed to the brim, and it looked just like that right there. And these were original, brand new Western swing songs. That's really an amazing feat if you think about it.
Yeah, and then Jasmine comes out and does some of her original stuff, and Braden, you know, and it was just an amazing thing. And now Eric's got a lot of material to follow up on. You know, guys, so the great thing about Western Swing and why it was so popular when it came out in the 30s, mid 30s, when Milton Brown and Bob Wills came together, because all that stuff they were creating it as you know, as it happened. And as they were doing that, they were picking up influences from all these other genres of music, mariachi, polka, blues, jazz, you know, and like the film says, it's an amalgamation of all these different, you know, like a gumbo pot. And so the thing that made that music so infectious and so exciting was that it was constantly evolving. And then I think the advent of Western Swing morphing into rockabilly, which is kind of Bill Haley and the Comets and those guys. You know, Bill Haley started out as a Western Swing player, and then he kind of added a little more of a beat that turned kind of morphed into rockabilly, and Elvis and those guys came along, and all of a sudden rock and roll, you know, came in with a bang, and that's when Western Swing kind of quit evolving, and it became kind of a tribute genre for years. And you know, and so that was, I only knew this information because of the film and because spending all that time around my brother and people like Kerry Janelle and those guys. But it got Kurt, you and I thinking, you know, if we're going to bring this music back, let's not be another tribute band. Let's write new stuff and continue to evolve it down the road. And that's, I think, what we've been able to do.
Well, and the reason I was so adamant about that, Steve and Eric, is because, you know, I was playing at the Longhorn Ballroom there. Bob Wills built that club. And when Dewey Groom took that club over, I was the band leader there for 7 years. And guys, all we did was Bob Wills song after song after song. And I realized real quick the people wanted something different. I mean, they wanted to hear something new. And occasionally, even back then, I would write a Western Swing song and we'd rehearse it with the band and do it. And man, the people would just start requesting it. They wanted to hear it because it was new and fresh. So it proves our point that we're on the right track here doing this original stuff. We're actually contributing to bringing Western Swing back.
I want to ask Eric a question. Eric, have you been able to perform a lot of this original stuff since you released the album? Have you been able to do that stuff live?
No, I was kind of waiting to do the new stuff with the A-List band after Kurt, you know, rehearses them and so forth. But I have done, you know, we do quite a few of the songs that are on the album live, but like All of Me and I Can't Give You Anything But Love. I've got a new heartache about an old sweetheart. That's all part of our, of course, San Antonio Rose, which is probably if I had to pick one favorite song, I mean, I got a bunch of them, but San Antonio Rose is probably my all-time favorite song. I've been singing that on stage since I was 15 years old, and I always loved that song. Not to change the subject, but I got to tell you guys, going back to talking about the original music. So Kurt and I and Kathy Jewell wrote a song called Strike That Match. And yesterday I had a music promoter call me, and there was a disc jockey that could not believe that was an original song. And we told him that it definitely was, because it definitely is. But that's another song that, man, radio is just absolutely loving that song. I've had many people now tell me that that's their favorite song on the album, but I've had many people tell me other songs are their favorite too. But that, you know, Oklahoma Bound, Strike That Match, I'm really proud of. And then we wrote a country song called Kurt said you need to have a waltz, and not that I'm not a lover of waltzes. I just wasn't crazy about putting a waltz on the album, but he was correct. We needed one. And man, did that not turn out well? Holy smokes. I mean, that thing's solid country. You know what I mean? And people are loving that song too. So pretty exciting stuff.
Well, you know, when you're on
we wrote a song that another artist great singer. But Lonnie's going to sing one of our songs that we wrote. Lonnie Bartmus.
He's already recorded it,
Yeah.
Eric. Actually, he's already put his vocal on it. We just haven't released it yet. But Eric and I did write a great song. It's called "I'll Never Get Over You," and Eric just didn't feel like it was right for him. And we had enough songs on the album already, so I played it for Lonnie, and Lonnie fell in love with it, recorded it, and it's a great Western swing song. So,
Boy, it is. I heard an early mix on that thing, and it's amazing, and it lends itself perfectly to Lonnie's. You know, his voice is like molasses, just so.
Yeah, he's such a great singer, and I was thrilled that he wanted to cut that song.
What is that visual?
yeah, Eric's doing all kinds of weird stuff on his, or Brent. That's Brent doing that.
Yeah, Brent's trigger happy on that button. Brent, you got to bring up the video now.
Don't do it, Brent. Don't.
What?
He's been sitting there all day just waiting.
We haven't let Brent get a word in edgewise. We ought to let him have a time.
I think Brent needed a little break. He's been burning the midnight oil, but Brent, we'll let you speak now, Brent.
I've got nothing more to add to this. I'm just enjoying the conversation here. I think everything that you've said is spot on here. One of the things, the other one who hasn't said much is Jasmine. And Jasmine, since you're sitting here, we talked about kind of this new generation of this music, and you've dabbled in a lot of different genres here, and your voice really kind of lends itself to that jazzy kind of a smooth vocal here. What do you like about this genre of music, the Western swing genre?
Oh, Western swing. Yeah, I love jazz music too, and country. So it's like you mix the two and you have Western swing. So I really love it.
Just when you talk about Autumn Moon and what that sounded like and where the potential is there to kind of grow out of that song.
Right, Autumn Moon. Yeah.
What were you thinking when you wrote that?
Really, it's all like fictional, you know, because I mean, I've never felt love like Autumn Moon before. So I'm really just writing about, what I think it would be like, what I imagine it would be like.
Well, now you know, because you've already wrote the book on it here with that song.
I see Charlie back there. Charlie's probably saying it better be fictional.
You know what's funny though? Jasmine looked so pretty in that video. She was so elegant looking, and I'm trying to get her to go. I'm trying to make Jasmine be elegant. She's not. She's fighting me every step of the way. I tried to bring Steve in, and he screwed it up too, and he sided with her. So I'm just gonna have to take a back seat. But she wants to be. She's more into this outlaw. I'll let you talk about it. What is it about the outlaw thing that?
So I really love Chris Stapleton too, and his look. The cowboy hat and the rugged look. So I'm kind of going for that. I'm gonna give that a try.
Okay.
Anybody pull it off? It's Jasmine.
Leather pants.
There it is. Yeah, look at her, man. What a good-looking chick. Look at you. But we got to get you a better hat than that. That looks like Charlie's hat. We got to get.
Jasmine, you can take your music anywhere you want to go with it. Just don't go into rap or anything like that.
Oh, that's what I'm going to.
I don't think I could pull that off.
Listen to me. You've got the talent. You're obviously a gifted songwriter. And you've got the voice, so you can take that music anywhere you want it to go. And of course, I can't wait to see where all that goes. But I think that the quote unquote outlaw thing is a good thing. It's a very popular. It always has been. I mean, I've always been partial to that. And when I think outlaw, I think of the old guys like Jerry Jeff Walker and David Allan Coe. Now there's an outlaw. David Allan Coe and Johnny Paycheck, those guys were literal outlaws.
Yeah.
Waylon and Willie were the ultimate outlaws, and I think that's kind of where Chris Stapleton is. He's taking his music a little bit from Waylon, from what I'm hearing.
Right.
So,
absolutely. Well, you mentioned your great song "Oklahoma's Calling Me" earlier, and of course Jasmine did the harmony on that song too. What a phenomenal job there.
Yeah, I was in heaven because I was in the studio when she lay down those harmonies, and it just was a perfect match. And she did a lot of the harmonies on a lot of the other songs on the album too. And I couldn't have been in better hands for that. And I'm so proud of that whole project for sure.
I was going to use Jasmine on all of Kathy Jewell's, her whole album, but she's only here for 3 days, and we have to write some songs. So I'm going to get her on at least a couple of these songs for Kathy. I know Kathy would love to have Jasmine singing on some of these harmonies. So we got her here today working on that. But we're going to write some stuff. I think we're going to go for this outlaw thing and see what happens.
Love it. Well, Eric, when you start to look ahead to what your career looks like down the road here, any projects that you'd love to get involved with, or anybody that you would like to duet with or collaborate with?
Well, Kurt and I have a little side surprise project that we're not going to discuss, but it will shock you. That being said, I think you probably ought to spin another tune, and maybe we should play Strike That Match if that's one that you had.
No, that's not one that I had set up here, but I tell you what, I do have set up.
What do you have?
Let me look here. We've got your version of All of Me, and we also got Playboy queued up. You take your pick.
Well, let's do the title track off the album All of Me.
All right, well, let's get it here. That one's been stuck in my head since we started playing it a couple of days ago here. This is, of course, we talk about. This song goes back to 1931 and has been cut by everybody from Louis Armstrong to Billie Holiday to Willie, and man, you've done a great job with it here. Here we go.
All of me, why not take all of me?
Armstrong and Billie Holiday sure didn't have that pedal steel and fiddle, but boy, it sure makes it sound nice.
Yeah, let me mention a little something about that steel player. Dana had mentioned Sonny Rice, was playing bass, who worked for Carl Smith, and Brady Bowen playing fiddle, who played fiddle for Hank Thompson and George Strait. But that's Bob Tuttle. He was the steel guitar player from the movie Urban Cowboy.
Wow. That's pretty tall cotton there.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to hear the record that we recorded in the studio. I was a little surprised. I was like, whoa, I haven't seen this video. I didn't know that was even out there.
We got Steve Markworth everywhere on this screen here. What?
Uh-oh, good Lord. You can't have too much of Steve Markworth.
I'm not sure what's going on here. I had to go. In fact,
you do, Steve, you did that intentionally, and you know it. Now we got to look at two of you.
And we can't, for some reason, it won't let us get rid of the other one. Here we go. There we go.
Sorry about that, guys.
There we go. Well, I tell you, before we get out of here today, just to digress for just a second, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, Kurt, the fact that Clarksville Creative Sound has some representation across the pond here for the Red Carpet Music Awards here, which are getting ready to jump off right about now. If my timing is right here, they're doing a red carpet ceremony, and we've got our artists here, Darren Wright and Vanessa Bourne, who are both there, and big doings there.
Yeah, they're representing Clarksville Creative Sound. Those guys are up for some major awards over there, and we're proud of both of those artists, Darren and Vanessa, two of our most played artists out there on the radio. I know, Brent, you play both of those artists a lot, and
Right.
so we're just congratulations to those guys over there. We appreciate you representing Clarksville Creative Sound, and I think they're in Holland, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct. Yes.
That's great.
And right there with the success that that Eric has had on the chart, it really shows just the trajectory of this label.
Yeah, I'm totally happy with every artist we have on this label. We made some really good choices, and it's all gonna come to a head soon. I think Steve and I would love to sit here and have a conversation about all the things that's coming, but we're not going to do that. We're going to let it be a big surprise when it happens. But the label is growing in leaps and bounds. It's taken off quicker and faster, better than we would have ever anticipated.
So, any parting words here before you get out of here, Eric?
No, it was good to visit with all of you this morning, and I'm going back to bed.
We think that's
Grab that.
Eat some chocolate, Eric, before you go. It'll help you. It'll help you sleep.
Well, Eric, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here, and we hope we can have you back again soon. I know we'll catch up down the road here later this year. You're going to be there in Fort Worth for the festival, so we look forward to seeing you then.
We'll see you at National Hall, if not before then. But thanks for everything, guys. Hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Excellent. And Kurt, before you get out of here, we've had a couple of hiccups here the last couple of weeks, but God willing, this coming Monday, August 21st, 8 p.m. Central, we have another Road Stories here. The public is long overdue.
Yeah, I got sick and couldn't do the first one. Then you ended up. I hope you're doing okay, Brent. I know you had some issues there with your knee.
Boy, it's been a MASH unit around here the last few weeks here,
Yeah.
but we're gonna get through it.
Yeah, we'll get back Monday night. We should be back on here with Road Stories. I look forward to it. I wish I could hold Jasmine over for another day for that, but she's got to fly back. So, but it'll be good, and we'll have some interesting stuff to talk about.
Looking forward to that. Steve, what else you got on your plate, man?
Well, I want to just ask Jasmine. So, Jasmine, you're going to be working with Kurt on writing some new songs, right?
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Good. We can't wait to hear what you're going to come up with, and we're going to all embrace this new outlaw direction that you're heading. And like I said, you can take the music anywhere you want it to go, but I think you'll do very well with whatever you do. And so we can't wait to see what's in store for you. And as far as Clarksville Creative Sound is concerned, we're out here trying to create as many opportunities as we can to get our artist music out there, either on the radio waves or live with live show opportunities. So that segues into the latest at National Hall. The lighting system, killer lighting system, has been installed. So we got a professional, really cool lighting system that can do all kinds of neat things. There's a picture of it there as they're still installing it. And then I was out there just a few days ago, and they were hanging the main speakers on either side of the stage. And so the sound system, as far as the speakers are concerned, are all installed. They're just waiting to get this state-of-the-art mixer in and control board so they can start tuning that system up for that hall. So I think probably the official unveiling for us will be at the festival in November. And then we've got use of that hall, and I've already blocked off quite a bit of time on the calendar, but we're going to do all kinds of cool things at National Hall in the future, and it'll involve you, Jasmine, and most of our other artists as well. Anybody that wants to make the trip to Fort Worth, we can put some great shows out there, and that's what we want to do. And we've got the means to promote that stuff. We're going to do live stream broadcasts, and we're going to hopefully do things in conjunction with some television networks that we've been talking with as well. So pretty exciting stuff.
Some good stuff coming up. So hope everybody will get plugged in. If you're not already, make sure you're following the Fort Worth of Musical Moments Facebook group, the Clarksville Creative Sound Facebook group, and the Rural Strong Media Facebook page, so you know what's going on here. I know Steve and Kurt are both great about sharing updates about everything that's going on here, so make sure that you're plugged in there. Also want to invite you to check out Rural Strong Radio, which is our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com. On the Live 365 streaming radio app, you're going to find your Steve Markward on there. You're going to find your Jasmine McDonald on there. You're also going to find your Eric Diamond on there. All the great Clarksville Creative Sound artists, a lot of great independent artists, a lot of legacy artists, and some great agriculture programming on there as well. So we hope you check that out again at ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app. And as we always say, a couple things of note here. On Sundays at 9 a.m. Central, we feature two great programming coming out of Texas here. The first out of Vidor, it's Sunday's Kind of Country with Robbie Lynn. We get 3 hours of great inspirational country music, and then we transition at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, to Billy Bowles Swinging Country, where you got 2 hours of great Western swing and traditional country music from our friend Billy Bowles. I believe he was on here today, and we love everything he does for the independent artists. So make sure you tune into that again at 9 a.m. for Sunday's Kind of Country, and stick around at noon Central for Billy Bowles Swinging Country. Well, I tell you what, everybody's got stuff to do, so we're going to get out of here. Thank you to everybody who has stuck around. It's automatically archived, so if you missed any of it, double back and check it out here. And we will see you next Friday at 10 a.m. Central for another episode of Fort Worth Musical Moments. So for Steve Markwart and Kurt Ryle, Jasmine McDonald, and Charlie McDonald in the background, it's Brent Adams. Keep riding tall in the saddle, and we'll see you again next Friday for Fort Worth Musical Moments. Have a great week, everybody.
You've been watching Fort Worth Musical Moments, a production of Rural Strong Media and Clarksville Creative Sound, copyright 2023. Please join the Fort Worth Musical Moments Facebook group and join us each Friday at 10 a.m. Central as we introduce you to another key figure in Fort Worth's musical heritage.